All right, ladies, hello, and welcome to our virtual conference. We've gathered some of our top industry leaders together, and we're going to be taking a look at sort of the new norm for out-of-home amidst and post-COVID. All of these trailblazers have insight on shifting and rising in the face of adversity. Being women in a male-dominated field, such as out-of-home, we're really sort of used to this shifting and pivoting and idea of really fighting for what we want and rising through the ranks of out-of-home. So multitasking and this idea of just overall solutions-based mindset is something that we're all very familiar with as leaders, mothers, wives, daughters from a really early age. So it does a lot of things for us, especially in this time where we're sitting back and thinking, how do we do things different, and how do we take what we know how to do and use that as a springboard for something that we may not know how to do. So I'm Candice Simons. I own a company called Brooklyn Outdoor. I'm going to be moderating today. And I'm moderating through the lens of my experience, 16 plus years in out-of-home through sales and the vendor side. So what's going to be great is all of our women that are on the panel today all have sort of a different way in which they're going to look at this conversation. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Candice. Happy to be here. My name's Randi, Pesso. I'm with Kinetic Worldwide in New York. I've been in the out-of-home industry for 20 years. I started my career in out-of-home and I never left. It's a wonderful place to be with some great people. So I am happy to be here to share my perspective on this new reality that we're facing right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm Julie Folkers. I have also spent my career in out-of-home and pivoted about 6 months ago from being an agency lifer, but an out-of-home specialist into the data and technology space, working for Intermix as their VP of out-of-home media solutions.
And I'm Kelly Spatz. I'm based in LA. I work at Rapport Worldwide. Though I might not be a leader since I've only been in this industry for a little over 3 years, I am passionate about out-of-home. I'm never going to leave out-of-home. I love it. And I'm just thankful for this opportunity.
I'm Denise Mercado, based in San Diego. I'm with Billups, and I'm a regional director. And I've been in the industry for 13 years on the planning and buying side.
Great. And Kelly, I do have to say you are a leader, and that's why you're here. Kelly works on Amazon, which is now the largest out-of-home spending client in the United States as of this year. So that's nothing to.
Thank you, Candice.
You're welcome. Let's get the conversation started. Now that we've sort of found ourselves living within this global crisis and it's affecting every single industry in some capacity, some more than others, I would say, of course. And it's not only affecting our industries, our clients, our vendors, but the way that we live our lives and the way that we move about our lives on a daily basis, it's a lot more confined than what we're used to and less freedom and autonomy. So it's more important than ever to innovate and shift course and think outside the board. That's what we like to say at Brooklyn Outdoor. I know it's hokey, but I think it's cute. Not only for our survival, but for the well-being of our clients and our partners. In what way do you guys think the hardships and adversity that are inherent with being a female leader in a male-dominated industry have prepared you through COVID-19 and to move the industry forward?
Sure, I'll definitely chime in on this one. I think just from my perspective, always kind of trying to multitask and being pulled in a million directions and dealing with the ever-changing landscape at work and at home. Personally, I'm a mom of 2 boys. So I'm a full-time working mom. I'm always running here, running there, juggling this. So I really think that's kind of helped me in just the way that new situations come up, new challenges come up, and you kind of just have to roll with it and pivot and deal with it and multitask and keep all the balls in the air, quite honestly. And it's the same with this. Some things are not expected, some things are worse than others, but you just have to kind of say, okay, this is my situation. I have to deal with it. How can I make it better for myself, for my team, for my clients, for our partners? And you just have to use those values and the way you kind of approach life. For me personally, as a woman in the corporate world and as a mom, and just kind of tackle it that way.
Yeah, I think the same. I'm in the same kind of situation as a working mom, but one of the kind of, I guess, advantages I've had of leading into this space of the ways of working is that I've worked primarily remotely from home for the last 10 years. I just hit 10 years in Miami, having moved from New York and being in an office most of the time. I do miss my travel. I was hitting up New York and Atlanta at least once a month each, and I'm anxious to get back to that. But the time here, and again, the juggling. But I also think, being a woman in an industry that has kind of been like the stepchild of media also kind of helps us tackle and force us to find opportunities for innovation. And that's definitely where I've seen this make people kind of rise to the occasion and think, how do we overcome this challenge that is so specific to out of home, with people being forced to literally be in their homes? So the combination of things, of having to pivot and adjust, where I have a little bit more experience than my coworkers, I can share strategies with them and how to work from home most efficiently, or at least know that that's something that they might struggle with a little bit in the beginning. But then also that idea that we always have that little bit of a chip on our shoulder in the immediate industry, knowing that sometimes we're an afterthought. And this has propelled us to the conversation even more so, even if it feels a little negative in the beginning. We know we're going to pivot and be stronger for the spotlight being on us.
Yeah, I think while I personally haven't had to experience many hardships just because I'm newer in this industry, and I'm not at those roles where you kind of see more challenges, I've been so fortunate to be surrounded by so many women leaders. And at the end of the day, it's all about supporting each other. So whether it be a panel like this, where we can come together and hear, different voices from different people all over, the US, or kind of creating a women's leadership network where we come together once a quarter and everyone can kind of have this platform to discuss these challenges. I was personally part of a women's leadership network that IPG Media Brands put on, and just to hear different stories from every type of position really inspired me and wanted me to always be pushing myself to be the best that I can be. I think it's important to always fight for that seat at the table and kind of push yourself to be involved in those tough decisions. We're not always privy to those decisions, and we don't always get to be a part of it. But if you're always raising your hand and always trying to be a part of those discussions, they're going to see you want it and how much you want it. And I think people respect that a lot, especially as a woman.
There's a quote by the late New York Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, and it's, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." And I think that's relevant to this situation here, because we've been having exponential growth of out of home for consecutive months. And then COVID happened. And I think we're going to have to work twice as hard to get to where we were. And I think that's comparable to being a woman in this industry. As you know, sometimes you have to work twice as hard to get to where your male counterparts are. So that's how I think that we have to propel the industry with that same mindset.
Yeah, and I just want to add, it is a male-dominated industry, I think around the board, not just in out of home, but I feel like I've been fortunate enough, and mimicking what you guys said, just to be surrounded by really strong women every step in my career, from the beginning to now. They really have your back. Everybody really supports each other, and I think that's a great way that we can all come together and push forward during this hard time, and just as leaders within the industry, and how we can kind of multitask that way. But being a strong woman and having that support for my team and people coming into the industry, I want to mimic how kind of I grew up in the industry, with really strong women who kind of supported us.
Definitely. What advice have you been giving to clients and vendors to remain relevant and sort of united in the industry throughout this time? Has that stemmed from previous crises like 9/11 or 2008? Like, are we reinventing something right now that we really truly haven't seen before?
I can start. We're an out-of-home industry, but everyone's in their home. So I think that's the biggest challenge in convincing people that out-of-home still matters right now. Rapport in general, we put together an extensive marketplace update kind of highlighting all these updates that we're receiving through GeoPath and through our vendors that we're working with, just to see how traffic patterns have changed. And I think it is going to be tricky because I think vendors are already having to decrease their rates, and we're seeing some rates that happened in 2008. And while I wasn't here, that's what I've been told. And I think anytime you go to a client and see this great reduction in a rate, and then next year you're going to have to say, oh, the rates are increasing 5%, it's going to be really hard as an industry in general. And we're going to have to keep fighting to show, we all have to work together and be there for each other. But we're also seeing this as an opportunity and to, excite our clients about opportunities that weren't there by doing a whole, landscape and seeing what perms are becoming available. Like, clients are having to drop these amazing premium units that they've been permed out for 3+ years. And if you can think of out of home and how competitive this landscape has become, especially with a client like Amazon that I work with, and we work in streaming. And if you think about all these streaming competitors that came up, and we strategically put together a recommendation for their presence this year in the industry to make sure they can compete against those major streaming companies that are coming out, and now seeing the industry kind of not crumble, but just have this kind of earthquake moment right now where people are backing out. If we can think ahead and educate them and make them make these educated business decisions without freaking out and just saying, let's cancel everything we have and let's take a stop, and out of home doesn't matter, no one's outside of their home, we can kind of put together a portfolio that would really, shake up the industry once this is all over and we start returning back to normal.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kelly. One of the big things that I'm trying to convey is take a pause. So I worked through 2008, the recession, 9/11, and now this is totally different. While they were impacted, our industry impacted, the country globally, this is something different. But I think everybody started getting nervous, pulling, canceling, and we're trying to tell our clients, let's just take a pause. Let's see what's going on. Nobody kind of make a rash decision at this point because we haven't experienced this before. And we're kind of getting through week 7 at this point. And while it's definitely not getting back to normal, there is some sort of the new normalcy coming back in some markets where we can take advantage of, what Kelly had said, whether it's reduced rates. I think data is a really big thing, and that was being pushed long before this was happening. And I think that is going to come into play and is going to push us forward now at this point, because we really need that to show that there are still people out on the street. It's not, a ghost town. And I think, in New York, I think that's, the epicenter and kind of the scary visions that you see on the news with nobody out, that's not necessarily the case. So I think it's really just taking a pause and educating and saying, okay, what's long term? Let's not kind of jump on anything, but think what's going to happen in 3 months and 6 months and 9 months, and really think that way. Because it does get better going through the recession, going through 9/11. At that point, I remember in 2008, they canceled the conference because, it was just horrific at that point. I remember, I think for 2 years in a row, they didn't have the conference, and everyone couldn't, we couldn't fathom what was going on and how we can get back to normal, and we did. And the growth has just been unbelievable these past 3 years. So it's just taking kind of a pause and seeing the long term.
I'm at Billups, this is a shameless plug, but we have data scientists that actually put together a map that shows every single GeoPath audited unit and what the decrease of traffic has been for each unit. So that's been really helpful for us. We've sent that over to clients to show them, look, maybe the highway units are going to work, but now what we say is hyper local is the new high profile for now. While people are not going out as much, they are still going out to get essentials, and we're having clients kind of pivot their dollars to more hyper-local focused, and also to place-based media and non-traditional media like branded delivery boxes, anything that can reach people in their homes is what we're telling clients to do.
Great. Jules, do you want to add anything, or what advice you're kind of putting out there?
It's interesting. I mean, I did, work through the last two crises that did affect how media is handled as a whole. What's different for me now a little bit is a lot more of my clients as a tech and software partner are on the vendor side. So the conversations I'm seeing in the industry and conversations I'm having with GeoPath as one of our core clients and partners, it's a very different kind of conversation. But what I bring to it from that past period of time is hope and opportunity. Having been through it, what felt like what Randi mentioned, this period of time, like, when is it ever going to be normal again? When are we ever? And then we kind of just forget all of that after just a couple of years. It doesn't take long for the memory of the negative time periods to fade. Obviously, there's real losses happening now that we all have to deal with on a personal and a professional level, but the business side of it will get better. And I think, what I think we'll lead into a little bit is where, and what Denise and everybody kind of alluded to a little bit, is that it's really the opportunity to show how out of home can be responsive, not just the media, the messaging itself. Obviously with digital and everything else, we can be so much more responsive than we were during the prior crises. In 2001 and 2008, there wasn't as much opportunity to have creative be as dynamic and responsive to the crisis. So I think we're all seeing social media and as opportunities come across hands to be responsive to the crisis, out of home has a much bigger opportunity. So 10 years ago than 15, 20 years ago, but also that data can be responsive, that the measurement in and of itself can be responsive. So I think that's where, where we sit now, is that perspective of hope, opportunity, getting through it and being stronger for it.
Yeah, Jules, I love that you use the word hope, because in sort of comparison to a lot of places we've been, like, there's a lot more forward thinking, I think, right now than there really has been in past scenarios and just in general that I can think of. Like, there's so much hope and there's so much positivity out there surrounding this, because we're all really truly in it together. We're in this unprecedented time in history. It's kind of hard for us to identify like the right way to do things, and we kind of just have to go back to the basics. What value do you think that brands can see in out of home versus any other format? And are there any talking points that come to mind that can help some of our viewers convey this value to their clients and shift the way that they're currently selling?
I'll start. I don't think the value of out of home has changed. It's still a media amplifier. It's still ubiquitous. You can't turn it off. So those things haven't changed. What's changed is traffic patterns. And so we have to adapt to those traffic patterns and propose and strategize plans that will target your audience where they are and where they're going now. So the value hasn't changed. Out of home is still valuable. You just have to use it differently at this time.
Got it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Denise, I think you mentioned like the new hyper local. So it's like everyone's universe kind of shrunk. You're still going places, but you might not be traveling 30 minutes. You're only traveling 10 minutes to go to Target or Costco, or just to get out of your neighborhood for 5 minutes. But you're still seeing things, but you need to speak to people differently because their lives are different. I also think, you're seeing it in all channels. Companies are really stepping up kind of their value proposition, their mission statement, really what are they doing to help consumers through this? So it's speaking to consumers and helping them get through this. You know, not necessarily pushing their products, although that's definitely, you know, what's going on, but pushing it in a different way, kind of adapting. So I think the messaging and the creative is a really big component with how you need to change with the channel right now.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that come out of this even more. I think in, you know, my history is on the agency side. I'm sure all of us that have had that experience have put together or seen our teams put together amazing media plans. And sometimes, not often, it depends on the creative agency and the client, but the creative piece of it, the messaging, not be created in lockstep with the media placements. And I hope that where we come out of this is continuing to build that resonance of they have to be merged. Like the power of out of home is contextual, right? And it has to be relevant to the experience people are having when they have the opportunity to see it. So I think that there's opportunities that will keep coming out of the lessons that we have where this feels like a bump in the road, but hopefully it's a bump in the road that gets us in the trajectory that we want to go in and continuing to like propel all of the movement in the positive direction that we've had in the same way.
Yeah, I think if we take this down to the, you know, the real basics is a lot of the way that I plan is for a talent or a vanity play. And if I think about a billboard and how these celebrities or talent or showrunners or producers see their face or their brand on a billboard and they literally have that I made it moment, right? They feel so good. They post it on all their social channels. They're excited. I've literally read that caption so many times, like, oh my gosh, I finally made it. And to me, I think brands can be really smart here and kind of acknowledge those heroes that we're seeing right now, the healthcare workers, the first responders, and a simple message that says thank you can go so far. And while, you know, a brand might be very minimal in that creative, it can resonate with that person and say, wow, you know, the Amazons care, the Netflixes care, any kind of brand. And I just imagine, you know, a healthcare worker taking that route home every single night on their, you know, after they've worked hours in a hospital, and they drive past that billboard that says, thank you for what you're doing. And I think that can create a really special moment. And while it might not solve, you know, and the issues that we're facing right now, it can just kind of bring a little bit of joy into people's lives. And I think brands have the ability to do that right now with the media that they have.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Kelly, now more than, oh, sorry. I was just going to add, now more than ever, I think brands have the opportunity to be contextually relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a program for Dove. It was great. I mean, you see it on the TV all the time, and they came to us and we were able to execute that within days. And, you know, we targeted the hospitals. It was really easy to activate digitally. The creative is just amazing. And we were getting emails from some of our partners that these nurses were seeing themselves on these displays in the city and posting it on their Instagram. So it goes back to Kelly, kind of what you said, like they're having that moment and it's like they're this celebrity and it's people are recognizing how important this is.
Can you tell our audience about the work that you've been doing at Intermix, Julie, with GeoPath and how that came about with regard to like traffic, allowing for real-time figures, you know, to be able to communicate that data efficiently and effectively to our clients, agency partners, so on and so forth, so that we're really telling the story of out of home and how we're evolving and able to still really deliver through this time.
Right. I think it's like I kind of said, hope and opportunity, I think are kind of my terms that really connect with me and in the context of our discussion here today. But it really, you know, goes to how out-of-home measurement has always used historical data to project forward what ratings and measurement were going to be moving forward. And it's been, you know, it's been a great standard. The methodology is sound, but the influx of data opportunities that have existed in out-of-home for especially the last few years has really forced us to stretch a bit. Now this required GeoPath to pivot and be responsive in a way that it hasn't ever had to really in the way that that the times demand. but also that the opportunity provides with the data that's available. And Intermix had been the partner for GeoPath specifically for its place-based measurement that we've been working on and hope to be rolling out soon, but we had to kind of put a break on that to allow us to be a partner in GeoPath that they needed at the time. So as soon as we realized that the traffic patterns were going to completely be shifting so dramatically with the stay-at-home orders, obviously we heard from the industry, the customers, the vendors and the advertisers that really wanted to understand, what does this mean for my media? And working with my co-founder, Matthew Martimo, and the great team that we have that's really looking at how to crunch the data and how to make it most relevant, we had an opportunity to provide that and to start providing insights to the GeoPath board. That is one thing that's kind of interesting. I do want a little point of how GeoPath responds a little bit differently than some of the information that is out there from other location data providers. That we've looked at, how responsive data can be for attribution and the post buy and the buy optimization, like during a campaign. But the nature of measurement and providing impressions has always been quite a bit different. And because we'd already started doing the work on place-based, it allowed us to say, like, okay, we know the scale that needs to be analyzed to have nationwide responsiveness, so that our industry, our vendors, our partners with it as GeoPath members could feel like they're getting the information that they need to be responsive. Now it is very different than a lot of the data out there, but we're excited to be able to provide that and be a partner of the industry. I think it's a kind of a good opportunity for us as an industry to be responsive.
So I thought that was interesting that it's like some people just wanted to completely, hide from the data, I guess, because they're afraid of what it would mean. But I think when they saw it actually come out and we'll start thinking about it more in a different context, like it's great. I mean, information is power. And then what do we then do with that?
Right. We talk about, at the beginning of our talk today about having, strong women as role models and as partners in our business. And, working with Kim Frank through this time as the president of GeoPath and having an industry giving different messages about what it is that we should be responding to and how we should be providing data and what we should be doing. And it really comes down to like the strength of knowing what your charter is, knowing what your obligation is, and the nature of providing the best, measurement product that we can. Now, Intermix has other opportunities based on how we crunch the data and what we're able to do on a venue basis and different things that are not a part of the GeoPath charter, that same kind of data sets, but different products. But I've really, been impressed with her and the GeoPath team of how they've tried to stay very focused on what their mandate is to provide. And I know that on a rolling basis, the annual product, the annual numbers that, and then we're working towards seasonal solutions as well, but we'll continue to take in the responsiveness and flexibility that we've gained by having to kind of step up during this time.
I think,
go ahead.
I think it's important to be transparent at this time. If we want clients to trust out of home and continue to spend, we're going to have to be transparent with these impressions. So it's very important for us to continue to provide them with the information on how the impressions are fluctuating, because that's going to establish that trust. And we want to continue to have momentum, and we cannot if we're going to be secretive about this information. So it's great that GeoPath is doing this.
I think, Denise, that is like I don't even know the expression, heads on correct. Like, we need to be honest and upfront, because that's the whole part of this industry. We're all honest people, and you have to trust the people that you're working with. And at the end of the day, I think something to call out is how incredible our vendors and partners are. I think we're seeing these numbers changing, and we're informing our clients But guess what? We're also working with our vendors to come up with amazing solutions that will make sure those impressions that they bought at the beginning of the year are going to be thought through by the end of the year. Or if they need to double up on digital spots or use a vendor's entire network to make sure that by the end of this year, we'll get those impressions. That's what matters. And I just, again, want to shout out to all these vendors that we've been working with because they've been incredible. And I think it's also very important to continue to educate ourselves. We don't always have these resources. A lot is changing. And it's, you know, personally, I think it's my responsibility to be up to date on what's going on and kind of taking those GeoPath, you know, lessons and watching those videos and keeping up to date so that I can personally know what's happening in the market to make sure that I'm giving my client all the information they need.
Yeah, definitely. Just to kind of add a little bit, I mean, I think measurement is really included in every single brief that we've gotten over the past year. I mean, it's in every single one. It's not just being used as an awareness channel anymore. So for us now to push forward a little bit, because our hands are tied because we have to, but it's really going to be beneficial in the long run that we're going to be able to actualize whether it's a daily or weekly, whatever it is, of the people that are passing the units, and really, you know, have that seat at the table, and we're touting the measurement and the mobile, and we can do this, we can do that. But I think it's really going to push us forward, and it's going to be for the benefit once kind of everything kind of gets figured out. And, you know, Kelly, what you said also, the partners are being great, the solutions that they're offering up, you know, they understand, they're embracing, and they know that the impressions are not there. So how are they going to make that up? I mean, just being in the industry for a long time, going from the DEC, which nobody believed, you know, 15 years ago, to where we are now is just amazing. And I think we're just pushing forward. And Julie, what you and your company are doing is just great. And I think it's going to really propel us even further to come out positive after this.
Like, is there anything that you need that you don't have that maybe someone out there would have a solution for? More data, that's for sure.
I think more data is always a good thing.
Yeah.
I think it, you know, it informs every decision we make, especially for a client that I'm working with. You know, that's what we need to prove why out-of-home works. And, you know, like Randi said, I wasn't there when it was DEC and how nobody really believed that, but I've heard all the stories, and anything we can do to prove that out-of-home is working, and whether it is to just be honest and upfront right now and say, hey, look, the fact that we can even know right now that these numbers are decreasing shows that we have a system that's working, and it's showing that we're tracking these impressions. So this can help benefit any kind of plan that you're putting together, and the out-of-home is essential.
And that on a daily and weekly basis, we're now able to reflect, like, as soon as there's an uptick. So yeah, even looking last week versus the week before was up. That people started behaving a little bit differently or becoming a part of their new norm. It might not be going to work, but it's, I got to get out of the house. I'm going to create safe ways to get out and about more than I did 2 weeks ago when this was kind of new and we were feeling ourselves out. So I think that's what is interesting as we move forward and keeps proving out the value of out of home. This wouldn't be a massive conversation that's being had across the media industry, not just where we talk amongst ourselves, but across the media industry, of the significant value of out of home. And especially, you know, the Amazon Prime, you know, streaming, and the Netflix of the world, they're winning here. We all know, right? When people aren't going to the movies and aren't going out to dinner and aren't doing all of these things. And the fact that they keep seeing out of home as their primary media channel, the investment still will continue there. So I think that there's great things ahead, and being able to even show like little upticks that we know as we start turning around the corner.
I think that's also great because I think I mentioned before, you see the news and they're showing like desolate roadways and nobody anywhere. And then when we're looking at the data, you know what, it really, yes, it was down obviously, but it really was not as bad as I think, at least personally, I thought it was going to be. It wasn't down 75%. But, you know, in some markets it was down 30 and some 25. So yes, your impression, your rates and things like that will be adjusted, but it's not, I don't think it was as bad as everybody really thought it was going to be.
Personally, for me, I would need vendors to work with us and be flexible to get clients their make good. It's not really a make good, but how to provide value of what they lost.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, from a vendor perspective, there's a lot of time after that we can create something really amazing. So how do we do that? And the only way to do it is by having great partnerships, which in Outofhome, we're very fortunate to have such a small, big industry. So I guess it's twofold. Like, what are you doing to engage with your team, to engage with your clients? And then anything positive that you want to say to kind of rah.
I mean, from my perspective, I think, the first couple of weeks were absolutely insane, just dealing with everything. But I think we're kind of taking a little bit of a pause. We're connecting on FaceTime, on Teams every day with our clients, with agency partners, with vendors. So I'm getting very comfortable seeing myself on the computer. Was not at the beginning, but now I'm over it. But just really still staying connected really that way. And just really making sure that it's kind of positive. I think one thing that we're also trying to do, where we didn't necessarily have time for before, is okay, let's assess our business. Let's look at our clients. Let's have those meetings with our partners that we didn't necessarily have time for. Let's learn more. Let's educate more. Let's look what kind of training they have online. Kinetic offers this wonderful training, so it's like we're being able to take advantage of that more. So kind of, again, taking a pause, but looking at the long term and how we can really affect that positively.
To build off of that, and a little shameless plug back to GeoPath, their learning lab is really useful for learning about the measurement, but also it's built to teach you how to use the Intermix built software. So so that's a good opportunity that I've taken the same time. But I have to say, like, I'm such a cheeseball, and I've been working from home for so many years that I miss my, my human contact that's like happened once a month or so when I went out. But having the Zoom happy hours that, Outofhome today and GeoPath partnered with, and talking to people that I've never talked to before, and having, it starts out as 50 or 100 people, and then it dwindles down over the course of an hour or two down to like 20 lonely souls, and and bonding in new ways, and getting to know other Outofhome lifers that might be on the West Coast or in different vendors that I hadn't gotten a chance to talk to before. So really, like, just looking at opportunities, and definitely with the rest of my team, that I wouldn't have had as much FaceTime because we would have just been on the phone or just on email. But this has forced everyone to say, like, let's take advantage of whatever, every minute we can, to have that, keep building that rapport with each other, that team, in a way that, and we're a young company, so like we have to thrive on every moment we can to keep building that together. So I've loved that aspect of it, that so many more people are doing this on a regular basis, when it would have been just like, a go-to meeting with no video, that it's forcing us to do this a bit more.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think we always want more time. That's all everyone says is like, I wish I could have more time. And I'm saving, maybe 2 hours just not driving to and from work. And it's been amazing. And I can take that opportunity to do these kind of learnings and the GeoPath learnings, or kind of learn, just go on any kind of, website and read more, talk to people. And I'm talking to people more than I ever have, kind of like you said, Julie, and I'm on phone calls and video calls with vendors that I maybe emailed here and there, but it's like, hey, we have the time, let's have a 20-minute phone call and catch up. Rapport, every Friday we do this, it's called Mad Men Friday, and we Zoom the whole office, which is 65 people. I've seen them more than I've seen like in the whole year. We would see each other once at a summit. I don't interact with the other offices that much via, face to face or on a video. So that's been fun. And the LA office does Thirsty Thursday every Thursday, where we play bingo, we do trivia, and it's just a good time to laugh. And I think we all have to stick together in this time. It's crazy. We don't know when it's going to end. I feel like today I'm going to get an announcement that LA is, going to be shut down till the end of May, or who knows what. But it's really just taking advantage of that time and having these opportunities, especially like being on a panel today and being able to hear from all of you inspiring, powerful woman. It's been an incredible opportunity for me that I probably wouldn't have gotten to experience if I wasn't, you know, working from home right now and in this situation. So it's to focus on what things you can be grateful for given the circumstances.
Just like everyone else at Billups, we're keeping in contact via Zoom. We have happy hours with our West Coast teams and our personal regional teams. We created Slack channels that are like solely for sharing recipes or memes, you know, trying to make things lighthearted. Everyone is going through a tough time. You know, some of us now have 2 jobs. I'm a, you know, a parent, teacher now, and also
you guys are all
regular
teachers now.
And we all commiserate on that subject.
I retired today from teaching.
You did.
I said I do it about once a week. I retire once a week.
But like, and as far as clients, I just call them to, you know, say hi, not even business related, just to talk to them on a personal level. I think that's very important because we're all humans. There are clients, but there are also people that are going through the same things. And for me, it's helpful for me to call them and just ask them how their day was, talk about, you know, what's going on that day. That's super important to keep your relationships with your clients, even though they're not, you know, generating any business right now.
Right. It's like every person is a person, and it's like, how are you, instead of what can you do for me today?
Yeah, because it's like, I don't know, it's in bad taste to send like maps and, you know, without having that connection and asking them and actually caring about them as a person.
Yeah, when my 4-year-old like knocks on the door and I've locked the door, but then he finds a key like to unlock the door and walks in when I'm in the middle of a conference call. And then like the CEO of a vendor is on the other line and he's like, it's okay. I am taking this call sitting on the floor of my closet because I won't tell my teenage son to turn down the music. That's where we're at right now. So there's like this weird bonding experience that we all have from like the uniqueness of this world that is just bonding, and it's bringing like this level of humanity to business that I'm actually appreciating.
Yeah, and I was on a call with one of our partners the other day, and we both of us had our dogs with us, you know, in the meeting. So it's new norm that we're dealing with. But it's definitely, it brings a little bit of you know, it just lightens up the mood a little bit, and we're all in it together.
Well, thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate your time, and it was great to see all of your beautiful faces from across the country. So thank you again, and hopefully we can do this again, and not just if the conference canceled.
No,
Thank
you. This year we'll do something.
Thank you.
Thanks, Candice.
Thanks, Candice.
Nice to meet
See you later. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.